Well, coming up now, Rookie already, we've got two finals here with Benfica. First up, a chance for us to pick up the Taça de Portugal for the first time as we take on Sporting, and then hopefully can pick up back-to-back Champions Leagues as we take on PSG in the final. Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 109 of Rookie to Royalty here on Shaun Does FM with Benfica. I hope you're doing well and come up today. We've got two finals, fingers crossed here, as long as the first one doesn't take too long. First up, the Taça de Portugal, the only trophy we haven't won here in Portugal so far with Benfica, the Cup. Let's hope we can pick that up when we take on Sporting before a Champions League final. Can we retain it when we take on Ange Postecoglou's PSG? So hopefully you guys are looking forward to that, but it comes off the back of the semi-finals of the Champions League in yesterday's episode where we took on Bayer Leverkusen. So if you missed that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. Just enough to hang on there off the back of a little bit of a late skier and go through with a 3-2 aggregate win. But we've only played two games off the back of that. Now, to be fair, put out pretty strong teams for both these games just because our first teamers could use the minutes there to keep themselves fresh for these couple of finals that we are about to play. So first up, we took on Vizela, yet again taking these guys on quite a bit this season, including back in the League Cup final earlier this season, and yet again picked up a 2-0 win away from home. We left it late for Rui Silva and Marcelo Rodriguez, but did pick up a win, and then we finished things off there in Liga Portugal, not that it mattered too much, with a 4-0 win over Maratamo, with Nyanzu picking up a double, and Min Hong Sun his first goal since coming back from injury. So quite happy that he's got a goal off the back of that injury layoff, which unfortunately did keep out there for a couple of Champions League ties. So here's how things did finish in terms of Liga Portugal. Still waiting to see what actually happens there in terms of promotion relegation, but we'll win the title by 15 points, but obviously that was pretty much wrapped up about halfway through the season. We did start to drop some points in the back half, but that was mainly around the Champions League knockouts and some other finals that we have played. In the end, another comfortable win for us there in Liga Portugal for the second season in a row here with Benfica. But last season, we weren't able to pick up the Taça de Portugal. We got knocked out quite early by a random second division team. Thankfully this season, we've gone a lot deeper. We've got Sporting in the final now. So far this season, we've taken on Sporting in one other final right early on in the Super Taça and somehow lost that 1-0 despite playing decently. It felt like we were a better team in that game, but could not pick up a result. So hopefully now in the back half of the season, we can do something good here and beat these guys in a cup game and complete the set in Portugal for our time here at Benfica. To be fair, we've still got one more year on our contract, but depending on how things do go in that PSG game, I'm recording this on Wednesday over New Zealand time, not too sure how you guys feel yet about continuing the save or not. So I think that could potentially be the final game of the save if we do beat PSG and pick up back-to-back Champions Leagues, because really, is there much point carrying on off the back of two straight Champions League titles, especially if we go a Premier League team where they've got even more money than we have here with Benfica and a decent amount of debt. So we'll see what we do off the back of today's episode. It might mean that there's not one tomorrow while I figure out what we are going to do next. But first up, we've got this Taça de Portugal final where unfortunately we do have a couple of injuries which we've suffered in training. First up, Florentino Luis out for 6 days to 2 weeks. So unfortunately, I'm going to miss our backup central midfielder for these last couple of games of the season. A bit of a shame there, because when we've used him of late, he's actually done really well ever since costing us that invincible league season, albeit in the end that didn't prove too costly with our form around those Champions League ties, but still a bit disappointing to lose one of our homegrown lads there in Florentino Luis. And more seriously, for the first game, Robert Renan, a gashed upper leg from training, so he's out for a further 3 to 4 days. Thankfully, he should be back in time for that Champions League final in a further 6 days, but will be missing for our clash here with Sporting as we look to claim this Portuguese Cup for the first time. Sporting finishing third there in the league this season, and were quite difficult to beat for the most part when we did take them on. So we'll see here how we get on in a cup game. As I mentioned earlier, they did beat us in the Super Taça, but hopefully here can get some revenge and start off today's episode in a good way and hopefully pick up a double to end the season and complete another quadruple with this Benfica team, because it was last season we did win the Super Cup but bottled things early in this competition. So that's how we'd actually complete the quadruple this year if we were able to pick this up instead of the Super Cup, as long as we also get the job done in that Champions League final. So hopefully can pick this up to make sure that we actually win the same amount of trophies as we did last season. Any losses, and that's going to prove costly. It might technically be a worse season at Benfica than our first one if we don't pick up a win here in this Taça de Portugal. But in terms of our squad for this game, Rui Silva does come in for the injured Renan. But apart from that, it's our first choice 11 in Sporting are going with their 4-4-2. It does mean that Min Hong Sun is back up front. Thankfully, he can handle a full game of football, so let's hope he continues that goal scoring touch he did find in that last win we did pick up in the league, which I think was against Maratama. But Sporting there with an early chance, a free kick, nicely footed shot there by Samardzic, but thankfully Miguel does come up with a good save. But unfortunately Sporting on the front foot early, but we're just able there to deal with the danger, and Izzy there gives away a poor free kick, just to try and get something going there on the counter-attack. So thankfully, a bit of an easy out for us there off the back of that good chance from set piece. Now Mateus Henrique, early yellow cards, just to play things safe. We'll make sure that he eases off tackles, and once my spacebar eventually works, gets stuck into this highlight where unfortunately looks like Sporting might be on the attack again here. So this is a bit of a team that can threaten us in Portugal. There's not too many here with how strong this Benfica outfit is. Thankfully, we give them a lot of space there, but they put that one over the bars. Sporting are kind of all over us early here in terms of the highlights that we're seeing. Stats-wise, it's not too bad, but 20 minutes in, we're not up to a heck of a lot, and that is concerning. Don't want to do this in the Champions League final. Now we've got a free kick, but that's pretty poor, and Garcia can claim it for Sporting. So not too good a start for us here with this Benfica team, as now they try and make their way here out from the back to Sporting. To be fair, so far this season, we've got teams in trouble when they've tried to do this with some decent pressing, but unfortunately, that's not the case this time. An attempted slide tackle there. We'll just check who that was from. It was Hudland, but we don't quite get the ball back, and now Sporting make their way here into our final third. Izzy there with a shot, but thankfully puts that one just over the bar. So far, all the danger from these highlights is coming down the wrong end of the field for us. So that's a little bit concerning, albeit we do know with our tactic, the first half hour, for whatever reason, can be a little bit shaky with this adaptation from the Buxton base all the way back with our first club in the save. A couple of yellow cards now picking up too in the first half of this one. So really, it's quite a poor first half. Also, a few players out there on some poor ratings. Kalafitoglu, a 6.4, but we'll definitely take off the guys here who do sit on yellow cards. It does mean that Diarra, we are going to bring on their 4-monster. To be fair, that's usual, but we're also training him currently as a centre mid, as well as that Matt Soso at right wing, and we'll bring on their Miguel Hez. That will be for the yellow card Nyanzu. So a little bit there of a young centre-back pairing, and Kalafitoglu on a 6.4. Might have to take him off soon too, and Diarra, early yellow card in the second half. Not really ideal, and especially because he's also picked up an orange injury, and Kalafitoglu now does drop down to a 6.2, so definitely need to take him off here for Rodriguez. The question is, do we take off Diarra with that orange injury? And with no Luiz, it's probably not a bad idea. So Diogo Carvalho, he can come on here. A player that came through the youth intake we had a couple of episodes ago is quite promising, but a big test from early here in a cup final where it feels like we're struggling past 60 minutes into this game and we've only had 3 shots, albeit it's starting to rise now as I say that. So hopefully some of these fresh legs here can start to make a difference. Hudland pulls that one back too much. So Min Hong Sun goes down, there's no penalty. Then a shot off the back of that, it came there from our left-hand side, maybe through Rodriguez, but it gets blazed wide, so unfortunately can't quite make it. 1-0, and then a chance from set piece, and it just goes wide, so can't quite get the job done here as we're starting to get on the front foot ever so slightly in this game. And now making our way to the final 10 minutes before this one does probably go to extra time. And then do we save the Champions League final up for tomorrow if it takes too long off the back of a penalty shootout? Maybe don't need to worry about that, because Sporting here with a throw as we're about to make our way into 5 minutes of added time. Samardzic there will pick out a teammate in a ton of space in Abdullah, who puts it past Miguel a little bit too easy there with our defence, and we've gone a goal down to Sporting again in a cup game in Portugal. So late on here, we'll put our players onto some more positive roles, but this would certainly give us something to come back for next season here. With Benfica, we'll go to a higher tempo, more direct, more expressive, a bit wider, and get the goalkeeper to distribute quickly. But let's hope that, as well as maybe going onto an attacking mentality late here for this game, might pay off. But that's a killer blow just as this one was about to go into injury time. It felt like there we were starting to wrestle the momentum late here in this game, but unfortunately that's really weak there at the back. down that right-hand side for Teo Magalhaes. Don't link up too well in some Hadjic there. Can pick out Abdullah, who puts it past Miguel. So our defence here has not played well, any of them in this game that we've used. Now, unfortunately, going attacking and more positive, it has not paid off, and we still cannot pick up the Taça de Portugal here with this Benfica team. We lose 1-0 to Sporting. Hopefully, that's our loss today done. We don't lose too often here with this Benfica team, so hopefully it's a sign that we might get the job done in the Champions League final and make it back-to-back in that competition. But that is a real blow. Sporting have picked up a domestic double just like we have, the Super Cup, and now the Cup itself. That's really disappointing because it's felt like we're a much better team than Sporting. Something like a 20-point gap, I think it was, in the league between us and them in first and third. But they are proving quite difficult to beat when we do actually have to take them on. So a little bit disappointed there with that result. In fact, very disappointed because we put out a pretty strong team outside Robert Renan and Louis, who were out with injuries. Quite a few yellow cards that maybe impacted our subs. Could have brought on some game changes. If not for that, maybe taking off someone like Sun, who was pretty fair up front. So quite a few of our players there did not go well. And we lose the cup final to Sporting. To be fair, XG-wise, should have got the lead there in the second half, but couldn't quite do it. And we'll see what happens off the back of that Champions League final coming up in 6 days' time. Renan should be back for that. That might be important, seeing as he's our captain off the back of that 1-0 loss in the Portuguese Cup final to Sporting. So not the start we wanted there. Today's episode, we lose the Portuguese Cup final to Sporting, so still haven't got our hands on that. So maybe with 1 year left on my contract, that's something we could come back for. But we are about to hopefully make it back-to-back Champions Leagues as we take on PSG, albeit off the back of that previous performance. That might be a little bit presumptuous, but Ange Postecoglou's men here are who we do take on in this Champions League final. Stack squad, as you'd expect, from PSG, and they haven't played any football for quite a while. Let's check out here their schedule. They weren't, I believe, in the Coupe de France later stages this season, unless it wrapped up quite early indeed. They got beaten all the way back in the 9th round, so they haven't had much to worry about ever since then, seeing as they're always quite dominant in League On. They have had a good 2 weeks since their last game. We'll see if that's a blessing or if it's a curse. Thankfully, Robert Renan is back. In terms of our team, though, I've made a change. He wasn't awful in that previous game, but I have noticed that Diogo Miguel doesn't like big matches, which could be an issue for a Champions League final. So because of that, and also because it's his last game here at the club before he does leave on a free for some reason, does not want to renew his contract, but Andre Lunin will put in goal. He doesn't like big matches, but doesn't dislike them. And of course, I'm pretty sure last season in the Champions League final, which from memory might have been against Real Madrid, he saved a Kylian Mbappe penalty to make sure we held on in that game. So Lunin will get a start here in this Champions League final. We'll see if we can send him off here as a Champions League winner. Just feel like that could be useful, especially off the back of what happened in that previous game. But also, Renan does come back in, so it is our first choice 11 outside of Lunin coming in and goal. A few changes on the bench because unfortunately Escudero has also picked up an orange injury, but thankfully still got Silva and still got Magalhaes as well as Renato, who can cover left back. So that one shouldn't hurt us too much. So hopefully here with a slightly stronger team and outfield players than we put out in that Portuguese Cup. We don't go goalless very often here with this Benfica team, so surely going to score here in this Champions League final. And let's hope that in particular our strikers can get the job done soon. A little bit average there in that previous game. Unfortunately, all those yellow cards we did pick up kind of meant our options on the bench were limited, especially with the injury that Diarra did pick up. Thankfully, it was only a slight injury, which kept him out for 1 to 2 days, but fingers crossed here can bounce back from that. Really disappointing performance in that Portuguese Cup final and hold on to our Champions League. Already going to be a less successful season than it was last year in terms of overall trophies, seeing as we lost both the Super Cup and that Portuguese Cup as well. Let's make sure that we do hold on to the Champions League. PSG with a stacked lineup. Ours might not be as good, but also probably not too much worse. It's a bit of an underrated squad, this Benfica one. We're usually one of the outsiders in European competitions, even though this season the defending champions. We have been drawn here as the away team, so another reason this might be a little bit tougher than it was last season, where I'm pretty sure we took on Real Madrid. I think there with that memory of the penalty save from Mbappe, that I remember who we did take on in that final, which I'm pretty sure we won 2-0 or something like that. We'll see how this game does go. Unfortunately, Monsalvo, an early yellow card to Diarra, might have to come on early in this game as well. To be fair, that probably won't be too bad. He started alongside Castillejo for a large majority of this season, but early stages this is a pretty quiet game with a one shot on target. PSG yet to do anything as we make our way halfway through this first half. A very quiet Champions League final so far, albeit now there's a throw-in. We're inside our own half, but thankfully are going to keep here on the ball. But Castillejo is very sloppy there, and Florian Wirtz will get in behind, but Lunin comes up with a massive save, so maybe already that's paid off there. Our changing goalkeeper Mendes with a shot there as well, but thankfully that one's quite weak, and Lunin with a much easier save. But a couple of big moments there for our Ukrainian goalkeeper about to depart. Not too sure where he will head off to. And now we go down the other end, starting to get some momentum in this game, it feels like, there with the graph that we did just see. And a big save that time from Donnarumma from a Nianzou header. I think that was the big chances now for both teams. The goalkeepers have come up big, and Castillejo is taking a sweet time on the ball here in this Benfica outfit, but thankfully just keeps it. Now we're going to float a ball far post here for Mateus Henrique. The Brazilian salmon will rise and put that one home. Thankfully, we can take the Arsenal out the player. In his case, otherwise, he'd be going nowhere near a Champions League trophy. He makes it 1-0. So Manuel Nardi, some decent work there down our left-hand side. Was very worried that Castillejo earlier in that highlight was about to give it away again, but Henrique rises there and puts it away as he has done so often this season and gives us a 1-0 lead, albeit now we are down the other end here for a free kick to PSG. Thankfully, Kalafatoğlu can just clear that one somewhat, albeit Baidu does get PSG here back on the ball. One over the top there. Nice work from Fortea to just control things nicely for us here, being put lower under a bit of pressure at the back. And Robert Renan, who's come back in for this game, has hit an absolute stinker as our captain. And it's 1-1. That's an absolute gift, to be fair. We have been given a couple of lows in the knockouts of the Champions League so far this season. Don't think we can complain too much, but really, that's a bigger gift than what we were getting given there in those previous games, that we have played a shocker there from our captain. Maybe he'll have to come off at halftime too if that rating does go down. To be fair, not an own goal, so might not be too bad. But unfortunately, PSG there, a gift, they take it and make it 1-1. Also, still well and truly game on here in this Champions League final, as now they try and make their way out from the back. Zai Emery plays that one back there to Wrench, who's at the back for them now. Wirtz tracks back a pass over there from Nuno Mendes, which thankfully we can cut out now. Some nice short passing, and Min Hong Sun does get in behind, but hits the woodwork. Thankfully, get a free kick there as Henri does go down, but that definitely should have been 2-1. It's only 1-1 at halftime off the back of that absolute gift we gave them there through Robert Renan. Just before then, Henri did give us the lead. So still very evenly poised here in this Champions League final. We'll make that sub. It will be Dara coming on for the yellow card of Monsalvo. Most of our other players out there, though, on some decent ranks. So we'll see how things get underway here in the second half. Unfortunately, early corner here to PSG. We deal with the danger somewhat. Wirtz there almost tries to win a penalty, but thankfully a good save there, and we're just able to clear our lines. It does mean, though, that PSG will get another chance here from the set piece. Florian Wirtz will put this near post again. Nianzou heads it away, but Wirtz here will make his way through our defence somewhat, but thankfully just able to clear our lines there off the back of a tackle, which I thought briefly might get blown up for a pen. But now a couple of players are on 6.4s. We'll take off here the player that kind of gave away our goal, and Robert Renan, our captain, for Rui Silva, and Medina for Hong Sun, who has not been too good, coming back from injuries. Nianzou there with a chance from a set piece of ours, but that one goes pretty safely wide, and it is still locked up here at 1-1, with still 40 minutes left in this Champions League final before it might go to extra time. But now on the attack here, Nardi squares that one for Medina, who's pretty fresh off the bench, and puts it away. So thankfully Medina has got some goal-scoring boots on here, unlike Hyun Sun, and makes it 2-1. So big goal there. We are back in front. Castillejo finds Diarra, just shuffles out there to Nardi, who picks up a second assist here of this Champions League final. A bit surprised because he has just been dropped from the Italian World Cup squad, which is interesting. He clearly has a point to prove to the Italian manager. Must be filthy, and they might be too, to assist in a Champions League final. But now time for us here to make a few more subs. It might be our last couple. We've only got 2 left. Kalafatoğlu on a red heart, going a little bit averagely. Rodriguez can come on him. And also Castillejo is out there, but on a red Hearts Diarra. Currently, we are training as a centre mid. What we might do this time, though, instead of bringing on Carvalho, is try someone like Miguel. He's at centre back and put Nyanzu forward into the deep line playmaker. So a little bit of a shuffle up here with our defence late on in this game, but hopefully it does mean some taller bodies out there might be a bit more solid defensively, albeit not too good at work there from that thrown. Hudland does lose out on the ball, but thankfully they clear it, and we do get the ball back. Let's hope here that we try and get the ball forward to a Diarra. We're making our way out from that because he probably is the best passer and amongst that middle four that we do have here at the back now. But Nadi finds some space down this left-hand side, of an absolute blinder. Rodriguez gets a pass pinch, but thankfully not for too long. Hudland goes forward there to Diarra, and Nadi goes back there. Some lovely short passing, and Fortea will get a chance from a tight angle, but again the woodwork comes to the rescue of PSG. So without that, we probably could have put this game to bed. Now PSG on the counter-attack, but thankfully good interception there does mean that we might be able to hit them on the counter. Rodriguez, a nice option here if he can find Medina. He doesn't. He picks out Hudland instead, who puts it away. A proper Indian highlight that one, and we grab a cushion goal lead with just under a half hour left. So that one wasn't too sure where it was going. We hit the post there with an earlier chance to Fortea. Thankfully broke up the PSG attack, and that shot there from Hudland, an absolute ripper under some pressure, but it helped there from the inside of the woodwork, but it makes its way into the back of the net, so we make it 3-1, and with the players we've brought on, hopefully we can hold on now with a quite defensive-minded midfield as well as our centre-backs. And actually a highlight for us here with 20 minutes left, a throw just inside of the PSG half, albeit Miguel Hez will go back to Loon, who, to be fair, having a blinder coming in for this game, as he does not hate big matches like Miguel did. That might be a little bit there of a managerial masterstroke. Nice work again there from Nadi, but can't quite keep the ball, and Miguel Hez steps up this time and will get us going. Nadi will start to stride forward here down this left-hand side, picks out Rodriguez, squeezes it for Medina. Good save that time from Donnarumma, so going quite close here to properly putting this game to bed. A chance now from set piece. Nadi will go far post. Nyanzu will put that one home, and that surely will wrap up back-to-back Champions League titles for us here with this Benfica team. Thankfully going to bounce back from that shocker we did have against Sporting yet again in a cup final in Portugal, and we score from set piece. Nyanzu at the far post puts it away. Nadi now with 3 assists in this Champions League final. Unfortunately, Nyanzu picks up an orange injury off the back of scoring that goal, but of course no subs left, so can't do anything about that. And with 3-goal lead, I don't think we need to time waste with this situation in the game as we're about to make our way to the final 5 minutes, albeit that could be about to change as PSG here are on the attack, and somehow shoulder up does score here against this former club, so maybe we do start to time waste here just a little bit to make sure that they don't score one more, which would make things very interesting here late on with a very tired squad that we do have out there now. But unfortunately, the former Benfica man, which I think back in the Leon Reek days got sold here in this save from Benfica to PSG, puts that one away. Lunan really got to that one, just timed the jump poorly, so unfortunately they make it 4-2 there from a throw. But to be fair, we should be safe still with only 5 minutes left and a 2-goal lead. So hopefully that time wasting stuff will start to work. We praise our guys, and there's a free kick. Rui Silva here. There's a couple of simple options. It looks like Diarra there on the right hand side of our midfield, but for some reason we give that ball straight back there to PSG. It's absolute stupidity, and Mayali will put it away and make it 4-3. So all of a sudden we're threatening to properly bottle this here in the last 5 minutes of this Champions League final. So we'll chuck the wing backs onto fullbacks like we usually do when trying to properly time waste, but no idea there what we're doing from the set piece. It's a really poor option, and from there Kadoglu can play that one forward to Mayali, who does cut inside quite nicely. Some poor general play there from Silva overall, giving the ball away from that free kick, and then the marking was not too good, but they've only got 6 minutes here to try and take this one to extra time. Let's see if they can do it, or if we hold on and make it back-to-back Champions Leagues, and thankfully we do. So we nearly bowled that one in spectacular fashion in the last 5 minutes there of regular time. But back-to-back Champions Leagues here with this Benfica team. Somehow scored 4 goals in that final, despite our strikers being pretty average off the back of the sales of Piskunov, as well as De Rosa back in the January transfer window. We're doing okay here with this Benfica team, back-to-back Champions League, still one trophy less than we picked up here last season, but we hold on to the main ones in the Portuguese League and now the Champions League off the back of a thrilling 4-3 final win over PSG. To be fair, we had that pretty well under control until the last 5 minutes, where for some reason we decided to try and give PSG a way back into this game. But a really nice spell there off the back of halftime. Medina, Hudland and Nianzou with a treble in the space of about 20 minutes. And really, that's what was the difference maker, because we really tried to throw that one away in the last 5 minutes. And also, quite a few of the goals we gave away there did come from our mistakes there. Free kick from Silva, and of course the first half, Robert Renan with an absolute shocker trying to pass the ball back there to Lunan, but thankfully we make it back-to-back Champions Leagues here with this Benfica team. I dare say now will definitely be managerial royalty off the back of that 4-3 win and yet another Champions League final. So thankfully just hold on and make sure we pick up back-to-back Champions Leagues here with this Benfica team. Unfortunately, that loss in the first game today does mean one less trophy than last season, letting go of the Super Cup and not getting the job done in that Portuguese Cup. But a domestic double and the Champions League is still a very good season. Let's go forward here and get started in the end of season review and see who the signing of the season is. It's Diogo Miguel, who we did drop for that final. To be fair, Lunan did concede 3, but also made a couple of quite big saves. So I think we might have made the right call, but Miguel did pick up the signing of the season. Somehow it wasn't on read. Maybe the difference there in transfer fee. For some reason, the board reactions are not coming up, so this seems like it's a little bit useless, but thankfully most of the players that we did bring in did a pretty good job for us here, apart from the 2 strikers. That was a little bit of a letdown, but thankfully they didn't let us down. We still picked up most trophies we're after here with this Benfica team. Here are the players that we got rid of, a big list here, and some of them for some quite big fees. The key ones did come in January. De Rosa as well as Piskunov for some quite big fees. They scored goals at their new clubs over in the Premier League. Now, the guys we brought in for them didn't do as much as they would have, but thankfully we still picked up the trophies, and a couple of players too that we loaned out. We'll see if we continue to save how many of those guys will be involved here next season with this Benfica team going forward to the season results. Obviously, the league was pretty much a cakewalk for us. You saw the league form earlier this season. We were looking like we'd go invincible up until that Louis red card did prove costly in that Chavez game. And off the back of that, did drop points as well. And a couple of games around the Champions League, a big loss there to Sporting. So to be fair, they beat us 3 of the 4 times we played them this season. So Sporting, it's fair to say, they would over us in head-to-head matches this season, but thankfully we still win one more trophy than they do and hold on to being the champions of Europe off the back of that 4-3 final winner that you did just see. Got a little bit tight there in both the semi and the final, but we do get the job done in the Champions League for a second year in a row. Unfortunately, no UEFA Super Cup. Man United absolutely thrashed us there off the back of our Super Tucker loss at the start of the season. So maybe that's something, if we stay here, we can look to avenge in the next season, our last one of our contract here at Benfica. But thankfully, we did pick up the Tucker de Liga for a second season in a row, very comfortably there with the teams that we did beat in those couple of games we did play in that competition. So a little bit disappointing that we only picked up half the trophies on offer to us, but thankfully the big ones were the ones that we did get the job in. Arguably would have been nice to switch their League Cup for the actual Portuguese Cup, but it wasn't to be in that first game of today's episode. Going forward here, the moments to remember, our biggest winner was 9-0 over Moreirense. That was back on New Year's Eve. The match to remember, a 5-0 winner over Portimonense for some reason. And going forward, the goal this season, that was scored by Monsalvo, and a 3-1 winner over Famalicão back in September. And here's the goal. It was only 5 minutes in here. Looks like it came for a little bit there of a short set piece of Monsalvo. Rockets that one into the bottom right corner. To be fair, thought we scored a couple of free kicks and the like that might have been better than that goal, but that is the one that does pick up our goal of the season. Going back here, and we can check out the finances, which for some reason have gone down. Not too sure how that makes sense, considering we went deeper in the Portuguese Cup than last season, and also took part in a couple of Super Cups. Not too sure there why the broadcast revenue, it has gone down, but thankfully even more prize money and some other stuff. Also matchday commercial and retail, that's gone down. Somehow Min Hong Sun was the top shirt seller. Maybe that's because of the Asian market in-game colour. Photoglu Diarra, Enrique and Hudland also doing a good job there as we pick up a good 28 million there through our shirt sales, and of course do stay as a 5-star reputation club. Now here's our best 11 all this past season. Miguel in goal, did drop him for that Champions League final, which I think paid off. But in terms of league games, he was really good for us coming in as a homegrown goalkeeper. The back four, a little bit interesting, got Brady in there at right back. That, of course, over Forteiro. And also, Rui Silva gets in there over Robert Reina. Maybe not too surprising off the back of his effort in that Champions League final. But Nyanzo and Nadi, that does make sense now. Diarra Monsalvo in midfield, a little bit weird, but apparently that's our best midfield combo. And also, in terms of our front four, a couple of interesting options. Trincao and Shadow Striker over Hudlin. Rodriguez, that's over Kalifatoglu at left wing. And De Rosa over Piskunov. And also the other two who came in, but to be fair, that's not too surprising. But De Rosa, with 2 goals somehow, has got in there over Piskunov, which does feel a little bit weird. So maybe some of our sales have had an impact there on this year's Best 11 going forward. To all the awards, the Fans Player of the Season and Young Player of the Season, that did go to Mateus Enrique. Picked up Manager of the Year, but that was for last season. Surely we'll get that again. Also, a couple there of Manager of the Month awards, seeing as we did go unbeaten for so long, we saw before the signing of the season, as well as goal of the season going down here. The top goal scorer and most assists did both go to Enrique with 19 each, so no doubt that he was player of the season, alongside that most man of the match and highest average rating that he did pick up. And going over to the competition awards, the best goalkeeper in the Premier League in Portugal this season, that was Andre Lunin, so maybe did deserve that call up for that Champions League final based on that. And the Champions League Young Player of the Season, that did go to Jeremiah Hudlin, who, to be fair, did carry us in the early stages at times of that Champions League knockout campaign. The most clean sheets by a player in the season, that's Nemaguel with 25. Carvalho, the youngest player now in club history, with that appearance that he made around the time that Louise was out in that cup final that we did play first up in today's episode. And Min Hong Sun, the highest transfer fee paid, might be a little bit of a waste of money, because honestly, he was a little bit average, even though he has sold quite a few shirts to make up for that transfer fee. And going forward here, let's see if anything interesting has popped up on our manager timeline off the back of last season. We did get to a 5-star reputation club off the back of winning that Champions League. And going forward here, a couple of big sales, some big awards that we did pick up there, a couple of quite late wins, including against Chelsea in the Champions League. Gave a few opportunities to our youth players, which was quite good, and made sure that we did hold on to the Taça da Liga, the League of Portugal, and more importantly, the Champions League. And there's a spoiler too. We signed someone from the team we just beat, going into next season, if we do stay here, seeing as Luna's departing. It's Gianluigi Donnarumma, who will join us after we've just beaten him in a Champions League final. But we'll see if we actually need to come back for next season. I'll check what you guys are saying in the couple of videos that came out before today's one. And we might come back at the start of next week if we do, because I've got a song coming out tomorrow with my band that when I'm supposed to be editing this video, so that might kind of make sense in real life that I do take a day off, especially if I need to make my way for a transfer window as well, if we do stay with the saver here at Benfica. Otherwise, I'll do a video over the weekend and let you guys know what is coming up, some different videos on the channel. But that might do it for this series, or we'll come back either at Benfica or somewhere else. To be fair, kind of doesn't make sense to leave a club that's just won the Premier League a couple of times in a row. Also, a quick check too on our previous clubs, just in case that is it for the save. Now, Jan Regensburg had an absolute shocker this season. They had to stay up via a playoff, so a big fall off there for Jan Regensburg. We'll check who's in charge there. Obviously, Daniel Roll would have got sacked. It's Jacob Niestrup somehow. They're down in 16th, so a bit there of a drop off for Jan Regensburg, which is quite concerning. Maybe we could go back there and try and save them if that job does become available. No doubt we'll get them well and truly clear, though, of the relegation zone. Also, a job that came up quite recently, that was Buxton in League 2. It is still available there. Apparently, Graham Potter is the favourite, but is not wanted by the Bucks. Interesting there that they're not opting for him, but they finished 8th in League 2 when predicted to finish 3rd. So unfortunately for those guys, they're still there as a bit of a playoff contender that can't make their way up to League 1. But I think that will do it for today's episode. We'll see if we continue to save or if we do something a bit different before hopefully the release of FM26 here on the channel. But if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to go down below and leave a thumbs up on the video. And also, if you've enjoyed this series, also make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well until the next time I see you, whatever that will be for. Thank you very much for watching, keep on keeping on, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.